last time I have been speaking about art and symbols and how art and symbols can provide portals into new realities by intensifying the natural trajectory of transformation. So art and symbols can really help us to stay in relationship with what is happening and which sometimes can't be really, put into words, but art can go there. And I've quoted Carl Gustav Jung, who says the psychological mechanism for the transformation of energy is the symbol. The psychological mechanism for the transformation of energy is the symbol. So, asking us, as we are becoming more and more aware of this spinning vortex, getting more and more tight, asking ourselves, what is here, what needs to be worked with, what needs to be understood. And then, when we look at the symbol of the living planet in space, suspended in space, it becomes very clear it's all about relationality, about relationship with each other and about relationship with the modern human world. That's kind of the theme which we need to open to. This is the theme, which we have kind of lost, where, our relationships have become very transactional. It's a lot about consuming and getting and dominating and protecting and all of the rest which you already know about. And coming back to our total interconnectedness, interdependence. And I've looked it up, on the web, how this word relationality is, defined. And it says it describes the fundamental state of being connected, emphasizing that no individual or entity exists in isolation, but is rather constituted by and inseparable from their relationships with others. And that's a core idea of indigenous thought, as well as in physics, where members as well as particles are understood through their interactions rather than their inherent properties. So it's the interactions which are defining the participants, not their inherent properties, because there are none permanent inherent properties. It's a constant change, but the how that happens, that's what defines these members or these particles. And in order, to really connect with that, we need to slow down. And I've quoted that a few times, by our Kumulafe. Times are urgent, we need to slow down. And let these truths touch us so deeply that it transforms us, that we can undergo this transformation process which is needed. And, as we are witnessing this eco-cultural unraveling all around us happening in its own way, out of our control. And then, remembering, bringing the humility. We are the youngest species here. We are quite inexperienced compared with other species who are here millions and millions and millions of years longer than us. So how can we ask for instruction from the modern human world so that we all can live because we kind of have lost, access. We have lost the capacity to relate to the modern human world because of the education systems we have been favoring over the last few hundred years. And now, we are really called, we are really shaken up to remember. We are on a search right now on how to continue to live in a way, so we can benefit the whole, not just one species. And I think more and more of us are waking up to that, and now we are kind of, how can we really do that? How can we really live from that place? And one way to do this is to really remember that we are not alone in this. We are all together in this. And calling on the benevolent forces of the universe, like our ancestors have done. Calling on those forces, to support us as we are waking up to the need, to really shift the paradigm, shift our way of looking fundamentally, and acknowledging that we do need help for that. That's okay. I mean, our ancestors were, asking for help, seeing themselves as embedded in ways, which we have forgotten, but we can bring that back. We can remember that we are not alone in the middle of all of this. And the administration, they are not the authors of what's going on. They are just actors in this very cruel game. They really don't know what they are doing. They are just acting out of great fear. So how will we care for each other in this time of great changes? How do we attune to these forces so much bigger than ourselves? And we are lucky, having the Buddha's teaching on emptiness, Buddha's teaching on impermanence, the teaching on the Noble Eightfold Path, the teaching on ethics. So we have a lot of support. We have a framework we can lean into. It is indeed a raft, which can carry us when everything starts to become liquid more and more. And coming to the middle of that river and allow that river to carry us, because we are not alone in this. It's not just all about our species, but there's something much bigger underway. So how can we help to shift the narrative and orient ourselves in new ways so that we can receive instructions, from life as it presents itself as planet Earth? Because, that's the closest system we are embedded in. We are inside of Earth. And how can we shift the narrative from imagining ourselves on top of Earth and, in human supremacy, the ones, who have been given all of this to do what we like? How can we snap out of that? Because it's just not working. And attune. And one skillful means I think is really very helpful is to imagine again and again that we are actually inside of Earth. We are not on top of Earth. We are inside of Earth. And then from that imagination, starting to sense into our deep embeddedness and open ourselves to instructions. Because we are belonging to such a vast system. We are just a small cell. How could we ever think that we could really fully understand what's going on, but we can attune. We can attune. And we have the Buddha's teaching, to help us to handle our bodies and our minds as they go through this process of opening to what's happening rather than turning away, and dealing with all of the emotions which are coming up. As we're asking ourselves, how can we listen in different ways, not being seduced into the hardness of the assumed stability of modernity, which is now really liquefying. To find a different way to move with all of it. As we meet, the crumbling of established structures. And move with it like water. And metta, loving kindness, is traditionally compared to water, because it stands for this fluidity and for cohesion, for staying in relationship, with our own experience and with others. And not being seduced into polarization, but remembering again and again, we are all together in this. And that doesn't mean that we, let everything happen, any brutality, and don't stand up for that. Of course we do that, but not with a sense of wanting to harm, but more like a sense of, it's a compassion, to witness others who are so caught up in these wrong ways. And learning, to relate to our own bodies as organs of listening. And we are not alone in this. We are on a joint mission, all of us. In particular, we human beings. Because we have messed up, pretty a lot. And now we are waking up to it, and we need to accept that. We need to accept where we are, and find the grounding in community, and remembering that we are in earth, that we are earthlings, and from that, from the ground up, allow ourselves to be rewired, to be informed by what life wants from us now. Trusting that life will use each of us according to our own gifts and talents in particular ways to contribute. Help us to open to a strategy we don't know yet, Mother Earth strategy, who always knows what to do since 4.6 billion years. That vast river, of aliveness, which has undergone so many different transformations. And this is just another one. Particularly instigated by one species, is our species, the youngest one, which is just like, needs to be called out, needs to be really called out. And then also remembering, when we are coming to the end of our resource, then the mystery can come to meet us. And this beautiful Zen quote I have been using already a few times, and I find it extremely helpful at this time. Not knowing is most intimate. To be in all of it and not really knowing what is going on. We can't really put it into words, but we can sense it with the body, we can sense it in the bones, and feeling like a root deep down in the mycelium, in the root system, in the darkness, not quite sure where to go, but feeling its way. Or, like earthworms in the Anthropocene, outgrowing the Anthropocene, giving up that assumption of human supremacy by staying in relationship with what is happening, as difficult as that is. And, and holding each other's hands as we are doing this by meeting in this way. And, the humility which comes from acceptance. And, today I'd like to guide us in a meditation on the Brahma Viharas, the divine abidings, or divine abodes, how they are sometimes translated, these, vast, open states of the heart mind, which can help us to sit in that allowing together, to cradle the fearful mind in the cradle of loving kindness. So, please, find a posture which works for you for about 35 minutes or so. And just, sensing the body on the cushion, on the chair. And just, being here with all of it. And, here at the beginning of the meditation, I'm gonna call in the benevolent forces of the universe to support us, to help us to stay open and to receive the instructions of how we can live. Paritavana metang sameta patanta avikita citta paritang banantu samantra chakravalesu atra gachantu devata sa dhammang munirajasa sunantu sakamokatang sa gekame charupe girisikarate chantalike vimane diperate chagame taruvana gahane gehavatum hikete Umma chayantu deva chalatala visamaya kaganta panaka Titanta santikeyang munivaravachanang sadavo me sunantu Buddha dasanakalo ayang patanta Dhamma savanakalo ayang patanta Sangha parirupa sanakalo ayang patanta. And imagining ourselves inside of Earth, embedded in this vast living being, the web of life of this planet. Which is working since a very long time, and we are part of it now, at this time. In constant exchange through eating, drinking, breathing, going to the bathroom. And this is the shift, the narrative shift which is needed, that more and more of us know that deeply in their bones, that we are part of a living, intelligent Earth. We are not separate. This is the basic narrative shift which our species needs to make in order to be able to access different ways of thinking and doing and being. And that requires, training. It's like learning a new language. It's not going to come overnight. And that's what we like to support here in these Wednesday sessions, that we are doing that learning together. And as you're sensing your body being gently embraced by gravity and held in place where you're sitting right now, letting go of any tension, nervousness, tiredness, whatever is there, just letting it gently drop down into the soil underneath where we are sitting. And with the in-breath, breathing up the vastness, the stability of this planet, the stillness. All around us, the soil underneath, the atmosphere all around and above us. Different densities of this planet we belong to, we are a part of. And this is a fact. We can rest into that. And every time we eat something, drink something, breathe a breath of air, we are taking in a bit of planet and building the body and letting go of something else when we go to the bathroom. So we are completely embedded. And making that a practice to remember this as a manifestation of, or an illustration rather, of what the Buddha calls emptiness, not self, impermanence. But just trying on a different cultural lens, letting go of the lens of human supremacy and replacing it with the lens of being participants, being members of planet Earth. And as we are, coming back to that, again and again, it changes us on a visceral level, on a neurological level. Because it's a completely different way of relating. And it's something, which takes time to learn. In the beginning, it's just a tiny bit, maybe one word, two words. But then, through repetition and through kind of reflecting on it, contemplating it, it starts to integrate into the system more fully. And doing that, as a collective is more powerful than doing it alone. And doing it as an offering, as a prayer, as a service at this time, where there's not much clarity in terms of details, but we can sense that fundamental need for a shift, from which then the details will flow forth. Because we can't really fix any crisis from the same level of consciousness which has created it. And that's what Albert Einstein is on record for having said. We can't fix it from the same level of consciousness that created it. We need to drop deeper. We need to expand consciousness, which means, we need to step out of the assumption of human supremacy, which was backed up by all systems, by religion, in particular, religion underwrote all of this, and Christianity enabled colonialism to just go berserk, really, to all corners of the world. And that was a development stage of our species, which is now has run its course completely and utterly. There's a few people, actually a lot of people still trying to hang on to it, but it's just a matter of time. So sitting with that's what we can do together. We can support each other to sit with that. And be with the burning of it, the not knowing, the insecurity of it, and allow that to change us on this very deep level, which we can only get to if we touch reality, if we really are in contact with life as it is. We can't just dangle there. We need to really fully go there with our whole being and allow it to change us on this very deep level. When there's no more, the wisdom of no escape, as Pema Chodron so beautifully called it, one of her books, the wisdom of no escape. Or Ajahn Pasano from Abhayagiri Monastery saying, if you can't get out of it, you need to get into it. If you can't get out of it, you need to get into it. Like an earthworm. Just throw yourself into it. And knowing you're not alone, it's a joint mission. And that, being cooked. composting the old, and the richness of that compost, the richness of that stew is the basis from which new ways of doing and thinking and speaking will come forth. It's pretty wild. It's a pretty wild ride. That's how, that's how nature works. Dhamma, nature, it works through impermanence. And, there's a sutta where the Buddha is asked by somebody, what's the most meritorious way of practicing? And then he, lists like a whole long list of objects, which can be given, and then he comes to the four last most beneficial ways of making merit. And it just is interesting. I mention it again. Number 4 from the top is taking refuge. Number 3 from the top is practicing the precepts. Number 2 from the top is developing a mind of loving kindness for the duration of what it takes to pull a cow's udder. So really short. And the top one is developing a reflection on impermanence for the time it takes to snap one's finger. Just that long. So imagine, that's the top meritorious way of practicing, is to remember impermanence. But not as a way of, no, I don't care, it's impermanent, blah, like that. But more, okay, if things are no longer working and causes and conditions change, then things go into dissolution. They become liquid and then they reform. And nothing is lost. And that is dukkha. If we hold on to it, if we don't want it to happen, dukkha is the result. So meeting ourselves with a lot of kindness, so that we can meet others too. First we need to meet ourselves, our own feelings and thoughts, mind states. And there is just no way around direct contact, direct relating. This is what transforms us. Allowing this experience to open us up to a bigger context beyond what I want. Doing it as a service. So connecting in order to protect what we love. And including ourselves in that circle, because if we don't care for ourselves, we can't care for others. And then once we are in this openness, we can turn that towards others. We can respond. Once we have connected, we can respond. So the metta is the connection, and the karuna, the response. May all beings be free from harm and the intention to harm. That's the traditional contemplation for karuna, compassion. And an opening to the highs and the lows of all of this. Being with the contradictions. And allowing that to turn into growth. That is upekkha, equanimity. And just, really being with the rawness of the relating. to something which is difficult to be with. And this is our service. And imagine a being, the most steady and loving being you can imagine. A teacher maybe you have had in your life, or a teacher you know from books you have never met in person. And let that image arise in your mind, human or more than human. And feeling their wisdom and steadiness, and how they can care from a place of strength and love, where they know who they are. They know they are part of a living, intelligent earth. And let them show you what is possible, if one really is deeply embedded in that knowing. And knowing, we are just starting to awake, bring back to our systems. And they smile at you, and you smile back at them. And the same qualities, they live also within you. That's why you can recognize and visualize them in others more than human or human. So take in that mirroring, and really receive it, and allow your body, your heart, your mind to be filled by that mirroring. The mirroring of your potential for really knowing our deep embeddedness, and that we can live from that place. And then that being, human or more than human, offers you a special gift, a clear symbol for what you need to stay steady, loving, and strong in these times of eco-cultural unraveling, of that which is no longer working. A symbol which can help you to participate and stay in connection. And then if it was an object which might have been placed in your hands, or maybe it was a gesture. If it was a more than human being, it might have just been a gesture. Just take that in, that mirroring. If it's an object, hold it up to the light. Just take that in, a clear symbol of just what you need to keep your heart steady and your mind as clear as possible in these stormy times. So really, feel it in your body. And then offering a gesture of gratitude, bow, thank you. And the being, responds with, we are here for you. We are here with you, and we can be called upon any time to help you steady your heart and to be as they are, to participate, to stay in relationship. And then we can sense, or you can sense, you're part of a much bigger process. We are not alone in this. We are on a joint mission. And we are fortunate enough to have the Buddha's teaching to help us stay afloat, stay in the middle, come back to the middle path again and again, and all the way to liberation. We are all part of a living, intelligent Earth which is going through a transformation process, which is constantly changing, but there are times, when there is more intensity, and we are in such a time. And remembering our capacity for participation. Sometimes, we need to lay low, and sometimes we can be more engaged. It's not always the same, but we are definitely all together in this, and we are not victims. We are participants, and we need to remember that. As we are, stepping out of this old paradigm of human supremacy, which is no longer working. We are not victims, we are just keep on moving to a different way of looking once the old one becomes obsolete. That's how evolution works. I'm gonna ring the bell now.